Hello and welcome to the 2022 Graduate Symposium at Pacific Northwest College of Art. I'm Megan Gilligan-Kane and I'm thrilled to welcome you all on behalf of the Hallie Ford School of Graduate Studies. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the Pacific Northwest College of Art is located on the traditional lands and unceded lands of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of the Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. PNCA teaches about the historic and ongoing practices of settler colonialism in our region and learns from the knowledge, creativity, and resilience of Indigenous artists, activists, and thinkers. If you take a look, for those in person, take a look at our program, and we have a QR code that leads to resources to take action and support our Indigenous community in Portland and beyond. And for those joining us on YouTube, we will have a link in the comments to resources. We welcome you to this event, exploring DIY histories, aesthetics, politics, archives, and ongoing attempts at self-creation, world-making, and community building. DIY has a rich history in our region, one which we hope to explore and critique through our conversations and keynotes, opening up new possibilities for DIY culture in the present and future. As our title suggests, DIY means not only doing it yourself in the sense of individualism and self-reliance, but doing it ourselves, making in community and collaboration with others. We are interested in DIY practices that span writing, fashion, music, art, craft, design, and social practice, and how local makers create alternative economies, radical solutions, and parallel social worlds. The themes that inspired the planning of this event include Indigenous knowledge and inventiveness, queer and trans DIY, anti-capitalist ingenuity, crip wisdom, punk aesthetics, maker culture, craft and craftiness, zines and self-publishing, print media, and Portland as a unique hub of DIY practice. We thank you all for joining us for this series of events. We are thrilled to welcome our keynote, Skawennati, and I'd like to welcome one of our students, Dalen Lambie, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Hello. Skawennati makes art that addresses history, the future, and change from her perspective as an urban Ganyagehaga woman and as a cyberpunk avatar. Her early adoption of cyberspace as both a location and a medium for her practice has produced groundbreaking projects, such as Cyber Powwow, a pioneering online gallery and chat space for contemporary Indigenous art. She is best known for her machinimas, or movies made in virtual environments, but also produces still images, textiles, and sculpture. In addition to receiving awards and fellowships and having her work presented globally at biennials and in the collections of major museums, Skawennati also has a long history of being a total badass within her communities. In the 80s, she was active in Students Against Global Extermination and the Quebec Native Women's Association. In the 90s, she co-founded Nation to Nation, a First Nations artist collective. In 2005, she co-founded AbTech, or Aboriginal Territories in Cyberspace, a research creation collective who investigate and create Indigenous virtual environments to ensure Indigenous presence in the web pages, online environments, video games, and virtual worlds that comprise cyberspace, which I really encourage everyone to check out. They have documentation of their beautiful projects, important programming, and they even have a virtual gallery in Second Life. Skawennati also volunteered extensively for her children's elementary school, where she initiated an Indigenous awareness program, and in 2019, she co-founded Montreal's first Indigenous Artist Run Center. Lastly, I have to mention that her avatar, XOX, is just absolutely a fashion icon. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Skawennati.
Oh, Nyawagoa, for that beautiful introduction. And Sego Sewaguego, hi everyone. It's really nice to see you all. I want to start first by saying Nyawa, thank you to Shauna Lipton, who invited me in the first place, and to Megan, who you just saw, and Danny Broderick for supporting this talk. So I really appreciate it. I want to talk with you. I want to tell you how much I love the theme of your seminar. I mean, of your symposium. Sorry, I love the idea of do it ourselves because we very rarely do anything alone. I was actually trying to think of which of my projects I did all by myself, and I couldn't really think of any, almost any. So I'm going to talk to you today about all the projects that I'm so sorry, Dana. I'm so sorry, but the wonderful person who introduced me, I really appreciated it. And the projects that they mentioned, I will be talking about, as a matter of fact. World building on Abtec Island, Turtle Island, and points in between. Oops, I guess I should click in the correct window. So first, though, I want to just tell you a little bit more about myself. I actually show this slide even when I'm here in Tiohtià:ke or Montreal, because, and this is my territory, my people's territory, but people even here don't know this structure of our society, which is we have the individual who is born into a clan. I'm of the Turtle Clan. And then the clans form our community or band, and my community is called Kahnawake, and it's an Indian reservation or reserve, as we call them here in Canada, very close to Montreal. On a day with no traffic, it's like a 15 or 20-minute drive away from where I live. There are several communities of Mohawks that create a nation, and Kanien'kehá:ka is our name for ourselves. It's, you know, we still call ourselves Mohawk, but in our language, we're Kanien'kehá:ka. And then there are 6 nations, Iroquois nations, that create the Iroquois Confederacy, or as we're now calling ourselves again, the Haudenosaunee. And I want to say to anyone in the audiences, to anyone Indigenous in the audience, your existence is resistance. And now I'm going to go back and talk to you about a few projects. And I'm tried to frame them a little bit in the DIY, DIO idea that is happening here. But I have to tell you, I didn't think of it myself. I didn't think of them that way myself. And so I'd like to tell you about Nation to Nation first, because that was a really important moment in my life. I was in school. I was at Concordia University here in Montreal, a fine arts student. And when I saw other Native students, like I hadn't yet, and I saw this guy, I'm like, I think that guy's Native. There was just not very many Indigenous people in university yet. And so I see this guy, and finally I'm organizing. I have always been a bit of an organizer, and I was organizing a talk about Native land claims. So I approached him and you know, invited him to come to this talk I was organizing, and he turned out to be Eric Robertson, an artist who I you know who is a really great artist, and he and Ryan Rice and myself ended up moving into a great big loft together and decided that we needed to use that space to continue, after we finished our studies, to continue to show art. We were worried, we didn't believe that anyone would want to show our artwork because it didn't feel like there was a lot of space for Indigenous artists, and we just actually didn't really know how. We didn't know how to break into that world. And so we thought, well, we know how to make art, and we know how to invite people to our place. So why don't we put art on our walls and invite people over? And that's what we started to do. And it kind of caught on, and it grew and grew. And so what you're seeing here is the page of our website that we made way back in that was 1996-ish, I think. And that website is still live, and you can read a little more about us if you like. But I'm going to show you just a couple of slides from this time, because of course each of these projects can be their own presentation and take all the time. So I just want to try and go quickly, but not too quickly. So we had one show called Native Love, and we invited artists to pair up with writers to talk about Indigenous people in love, because we never saw anything about Indigenous people in love at that time. We were always just saw about how, you know, pathetic we were. We saw the stereotypes, and we wanted to see something else. So here's a piece by Lori Blondo, and Bradley LaRock. I didn't write his name there for some reason. And then that's the Cosmo Squaw piece. And over here we have Indians After Sex by Rose Spahan and Jeanette Armstrong. Our next big project was called Cyber Powwow. And this is a really significant project for myself because it kind of led to everything that I'm doing right now. I was graduated and I had found a job as a coordinator in an artist-run center called Obero here in Montreal. And I was like, I was looking for, I don't know, I was very interested in the world around me. And so I was going to lots of different things. And there was this evening called Femme Branchée, or Wired Women, that was a monthly salon that this Studio XX, another artist-run center, would host every month or so. And they would always show new technologies and demonstrate them. And so one night they showed the Palace. Does anyone in the room know about the Palace? It was termed visual chat software, and it was the first online world I had ever heard of. So they didn't even call it an online world, actually. I think they called it they called it chat software. And I mean, now we're constantly texting one another and that we think nothing of it. But at this time, this was a huge innovation. So the first thing that was innovative was that there was chat rooms. So people may have heard of, might know that we had these, chat rooms where we would talk to one another on a computer inside a little window by text. But here they had a graphical background, a graphical interface, which was very brand new and very exciting. And this was the first time I heard this term avatar. And so my avatar is like probably her, like this pink happy face. And as I started hanging out in the Palace, so the Palace, you have an avatar, you've got the background room, and then you've got the people talking in these text balloons. Well, slowly over time, the Palace, the people who made the Palace, made it more and more open so that people could customize it. They could customize their avatars by adding little glasses, or they could, then the next stage was like that you could actually change that happy face into an image. And then finally, you could make your own palace. And what I thought would be a really great idea is if all these Indigenous artists that were separated by vast distances across Turtle Island could come together in this virtual space. And so I invited some artists to help me build a palace, and they did. And we did it a few times, actually, over the next, like, I can't do math too good right now. 8 years, I think it was almost 10 years, but it doesn't look like 10 years when I look at the numbers there. And we made a palace ourselves. And what's really exciting is that, right now, Rhizome, which is an organization that preserves but also promotes digital art, born digital art, is going to be is creating a restoration of Cyber Powwow, the Palace, so that anyone can access it from the web at any time. And on Saturday in New York City, I will be at a pop-up exhibition of Cyber Powwow. So I'm very excited about it, and it feels really nice that it's being recognized as something that was important so many moons ago. So Cyber Powwow led very directly to Aboriginal territories in cyberspace. I met my now husband making Cyber Powwow. I met this native guy who was like a software, I don't know what he was, engineer, designer, and a poet. And we started talking about this idea of an Aboriginal territory in cyberspace. I had already called Cyber Powwow that, but we just continued this conversation over years. What would it mean? What does it mean, an Aboriginal territory in cyberspace? What is cyberspace? What's a territory? And how do we indigenize it? Which wasn't even, we didn't even use that word yet, but that was what we were thinking about. We also felt like, we met in Banff, and I moved to San Francisco. And so he was quite close to that whole tech bubble thing. I guess you all are close to that as well. And, it just felt like this was a very special time when, there were at least a few Native people who had the tools and the access to the tools to be able to be in on the ground floor of a whole new medium. And we wanted to make sure that not only were we a part of it, but maybe we could even affect its look and feel, and have a say. And so that's what Aboriginal Territories in Cyberspace is all about. We've done a lot of really wonderful projects, if I do say so myself, and I want to just touch upon them very quickly. Oh, I just realized I forgot to press my alarm. Darn it. I usually like to make sure I time I talk so I don't go over, because I do like to talk. I'm gonna say that was about 10 minutes. All right. So one of our biggest projects and very fulfilling projects is called Skins, and it's the Skins workshops on Indigenous storytelling and digital media design. But basically, we're teaching Indigenous youth how to make video games, or how to make video games, or do things that could be in a video game or in a machinima. And so, I'm not going to talk about that. So that led me to learning how to make, and sort of that's kind of another DIO story, actually. But I think hopefully it'll come clear as I continue talking. IF was another great big project we did, but I'm not going to talk too much about that, but we can if you want to later. What I'm trying to get at is, here we were thinking about how to, share these tools with Indigenous youth, encourage them to be producers, not just consumers of video games and related technology. And someone showed me Second Life. How many people here know Second Life? Yeah. So much more recent, and but for me, so much like the Palace. I mean, in its customizability, in its ease of use, and in its interactivity, I just felt completely at home. But I liked it more. I liked having a whole body more than I liked having, in a 3D space, more than I liked being a little disc that moved around in a 2D space. And so that was really wonderful. And we thought, hey, I think we can use this space to teach the youth how to, build, how to move around, navigate and build in 3D space. And so we would actually have workshops in Second Life. This is like a classroom here where each person could use one of these, we sort of assigned a square to each person so they could build there. And one of our first classes was how to build a snowman. But then somebody told me about machinima. And for those of you who don't know, machinima is making movies in virtual spaces. And this made me really excited. Like they said, yeah, Second Life, people make machinima on there. And I was like, I want to try that. But there was no manual. There was nobody was making machinima. I could not really find people to help me make machinima. So I just sort of really did it myself. Again, not alone though, did it ourselves. I was so lucky because my now husband, Jason Edward Lewis, did I say his name? He's the co-director and co-founder of AppTech with me. He is a professor at Concordia. And so he had research assistants come in for us to all learn how to make machinima together and to figure out how to do it. So we figured out how to use Second Life's in-world camera, and we figured out how to, everything, like how to shoot, what size the window should be to shoot at, and how to make the avatar go in the direction you wanted them to go when you wanted them to go there. So what I'm going to show you next, hang on, let me tell him. Okay. So I made a machinima, and it was, we were learning as we went. The first episode took me 2 years to make. I made Time Traveler TM, a 9-episode machinima series. Hang on a second. Oh, honey, I got it from, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Old text being answered. Thank you. That was him. That was Chase. I don't know if you saw him. He's a very good partner. So, all right, sorry, where am I? Time Traveler TM. Yes, a 9-part machinima about an Indigenous man who lives in the future, the year 2121. He's Mohawk, and he's pretty angry. for a number of reasons. He can't seem to make it work in his current society. And so also in that time period, there is an edutainment system called Time Traveler TM that looks like glasses. But when you put them on, a head-up display comes on. And actually, I think I have this in the clip. I have a very short clip, a 3-minute clip that we're about to play. Yeah, wait. Yes, I am. Sorry. And I think it will, what I want to show you is two things. It will introduce you to the whole series, which is 9 episodes long, but I actually kind of wanted to show you kind of how bad it looks or how maybe, it was like made in 2004, like 2000, no, that's a bit too late. 2000, it was finished in 2007. It took a couple of years. And, like I said, it was learning along the way. I still love it. It's still my baby. But I think I got better and my team got better at it. And when you see episode 9 and I'll show you some machinima that I worked on more recently and you'll see the difference. So this is where I will ask Megan to please press play and see this 2-minute clip or 3-minute clip.
My name is Redora Steerhouse. Redora means hunter in Mohawk. That's what people call me, Hunter. I'm a Mohawk, not a Mohican, okay? We survived. Like my father and my father's father, I can use a bow and arrow like nobody's business. I can also paddle a canoe faster than most speedboats and more quietly than your mother's orgasm. And like the legends say, I can walk the high steel without a worry. Hell, I can do gymnastics up there. All these traditional skills would have made me one serious breadwinner once, a couple of 100 years ago when us Indians still made up the majority of Turtle Island. But today, in an over-mediated, hyper-consumerist North America without enough room for everybody, I have to be content with being a ruthless, efficient, cold-blooded killer. That pisses me off. Okay, cold-blooded killer is not exactly the politically correct term for what I do. Bounty hunter sounds better. Hired gun also works, though it lacks sophistication. I did spend some time in the Marine Corps, also like most of my relatives. But fighting other people's wars is starting to get boring. I'm thinking maybe I need a new aim in life. Screen, on.
Traveling through time these days is easy, thanks to Time Traveler TM. Witness important historical events or interact with the people who made them happen. You can even customize your own events and visit with your great-great-great-great-grandmother. All customized characters must have existed. It's easy and fun. Visit www.timetravelertm.com.
Time Traveler TM. On. Yeah, they use these in schools for history class. It takes all the known facts about a particular event in history, a speech, a battle, a day in the life of, and recreates it for you in living color. It's basically like going into a full-on 3D chat room and hanging out with famous dead people, like Geronimo. I'm interested in a little hand-to-hand combat. It's one of my specialties. So, let's try Indian and Massacre. More than 86,000 hits, but most of them talk about Indians being massacred. I want to know about Indians who are doing some massacring. Let me try the trusty random function. Figure odds are good that I'll get to see some good old-fashioned killing, at least. I figure a little visiting with my ancestors, a little recon with my role models, could do me some good right now. Give me a new perspective. Go ahead. Call it a vision quest.
I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. I was like, don't forget to unmute. Don't forget to unmute. Anyway, so what I was saying is that Time Traveler TM was me trying to, my first, well, not my first attempt actually, but my major attempt to show Indigenous people in the future and to show a world in which Indigenous people were thriving, not just surviving. And what Hunter does, so he starts off in this sort of bad place, but by using the glasses, he reconnects with his heritage. He learns more about what it means to be Mohawk. He meets a person who he falls in love with, who loves him back, and he also becomes rich and famous, because I felt that we never see rich, famous Indigenous people, and I wanted to show all kinds of success in this series. So back to how we used Second Life. We used Second Life, obviously, maybe to make the sets. Like, we filmed everything there, and we made these pretty elaborate sets. This set here that you're looking at is a pre-contact Iroquois village. And we went, and when I say we, again, it's myself and the amazing research assistants that I worked with. We actually went to an archaeological site near here where they had this little model of this, and we recreated it in Second Life. We also recreated, Alcatraz Island, and a bunch of other cool sites. So this project is viewable right now at all times at www.timetravelertm.com/episodes. So you can watch them all. Oh, and here's a fun picture of like many sets at the same time. So then, like how we would film. There's the city that you just saw him flying around in. Here's that longhouse village. Here's one of the protagonists' homes, and this is actually a church. Inside looks great, outside didn't matter. And so we've now taken some of these sets and we've put them in a more welcoming and open space in Second Life, so that visitors can come and check them out and hang out here. I wanted to create something like the Palace Cyberpow site, Cyberpow Palace, by having a place where people could come 24/7 and meet, a safe space for Indigenous people and our allies to talk about anything and look at artwork. And behind these two avatars here is our gallery, AbTech Gallery, which during the pandemic, we really activated and we invited artists to show their work. We transmediated a lot of work that was meant to be shown in, physical AFK, away from keyboard galleries. And it was very exciting. We've just gone on hiatus recently because we for lots of reasons. So there's not really too much happening in the gallery right now, but it will come back again. Oh, and this is just how, one interesting conversation that I had myself. There's my avatar. This is one of my wonderful research assistants that I've been mentioning, Maze Longboat. And this is a guest, Alma, and they wanted to talk about, digital artifacts and like what the meanings of them were. So it was a really pretty high level conversation. There's also sometimes just, little less high level happening. So I'm talking a bit about world building, and with Time Traveler TM, I was trying to make a futuristic world where, or a world in the future where Indigenous people were thriving. However, I found myself recreating the past a lot. And that was cool. That was fine. I'm very happy with the piece, but I really wanted to try something different in my next piece. And I feel it was successful with She Falls for Ages. She Falls for Ages is a sci-fi retelling of our Haudenosaunee creation story. And the creation story has many different versions, like many of our creation stories, of all of our creation stories. But what's usually common to all of them is that there's a very special tree. Oh yeah, first of all, it starts off in Sky World, which is a place beyond the heavens. And I wanted to think of it as another planet. And sorry, place beyond the heavens, there's always a very special tree. The tree is always uprooted, revealing a great big hole. And a woman always goes, a pregnant woman goes through that hole, falling to land on an earth still covered with water. And animals, birds, help break her fall and bring her safely to the back of a turtle. And the turtle and other animals help put earth on the turtle so that she can plant some of the seeds that she ended up bringing with her. And this is why I think Turtle Island is not just North America, but is actually Pangea, the original supercontinent, and that it refers to the whole world. So I'm going to show you. So like I said, I created a whole world for this, which was really fun and really exciting. And the next clip, Megan, is going to show you a tiny little bit of that world.
Let's talk about this faraway place for a moment. We sometimes call it Garamhyake. In your language, that means Sky World. Its people are a peaceful race who have overcome most diseases and hardly know the meaning of death. They have harnessed geothermal, wind, and solar power and are brilliant botanists. One of their greatest creations is the celestial tree. Developed over thousands of years of careful cultivation, the tree's blossoms emit light. In fact, they light the whole world. The guardian of the celestial tree is a kind and conscientious young man named Larumrode. It is his responsibility to make sure the tree is properly cared for, and he, indeed, everyone regards this duty as an honor.
So hello. And so I'm going to not spend too much time talking about this project, but I want to just tell you that there were spin-offs. And I did this, I made her costume and I wore it, and I got this amazing photographer, Dana Danger, to take my picture with it. And I still am not quite finished with this piece, but that happened. I was asked to do a public sculpture, and so I did the celestial tree as a street sign. And then this, the Tomorrow People Wampum, which was just I don't know why I say just, but it was a decoration in their home, one of their homes in the Machinima, and made it real and hung it on a wall in the AFK world, and it was exciting. And it meant like that to me. It sort of started to mean like these worlds I was imagining in the future or far away were coming closer and were maybe becoming real. And the same kind of thing happened with this project called Calico and Camouflage, which is my first fashion project. And it's another video right away. This is, I was asked, in the pandemic, I don't know if this happened to you, but everyone was asking us to, can you just make a quick little video? Can you just make a video of yourself telling people about something? And I was not able to make a quick video. So I decided I would make a quick selfie of my avatar self. So if Megan doesn't mind pressing play on this one, this is going to explain the project faster and in a more fun way than I will just talking to you, I think.
Sega Sewagwego. Hi everyone, I'm Skawennati, talking to you via my avatar, XOX. I'm a Ganyangehaga of Kahnawake, and I live and work in Tiohtià:ke, aka Montreal. XOX, of course, is from cyberspace. I thought it was fitting that she present the Calico and Camouflage collection because it was first developed for her and her avatar pals. Calico and Camouflage is a fashion collection of resistance wear. It is composed, simply, of traditionally inspired ribbon shirts and military-style combat pants. I've done a switcheroo and made ribbon shirts with camouflage patterns and the pants with calicos, bringing the two patterns into dialogue with each other. The two articles of clothing, as well as the two patterns, are intertwined with the history of colonization on Turtle Island. With the help of students at Concordia, I designed an updated and abstracted camouflage pattern, plus a calico that I first developed for XOX's signature outfit. Powerful pink, steel blue, olive green, and cool gray are the dominant colors. I imagined them reflecting contemporary landscapes of activism, including demonstrations in city streets, rural roadblocks, courtrooms, and, of course, cyberspace. As someone who has been making costumes for avatars for quite some time, I didn't think about making these outfits in real life until I saw the call for submissions from Indigenous Fashion Week Toronto. Suddenly, I knew that these outfits had to be worn by real human beings, Ungwe, by those of us who wish to simultaneously proclaim our indigeneity and our readiness to resist ongoing assimilation. I seriously can't believe I have to protest this shit.
So with this project, like it said, I started off imagining that this would just be something I did in cyberspace. I made these amazing, I like them, right? These nice outfits, these shirts and pants. And then I had a studio visit from a curator who was asking me what I was working on, and I showed her, and she said, "Well, is there any way that we could bring them into the real world?" And I was like, and she's like, "Couldn't we just print them? What about printing them on vinyl?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I can take a picture. I can take images in Second Life at a very high resolution. I've printed, life-size avatars before." Excuse me. Yes, I think we could do it. And so she said, I want to fill a mall. I want to put your work all throughout this mall in Montreal. And I was like, amazing. So this is what it looked like. And by the way, it was a vinyl alternative, an eco-friendly vinyl. So I was very happy about that. And here they are. I'll just show you a few scenes of how they looked in the mall. I liked how they were present on these, not smooth surfaces. So they were like present, they were part of the building, and yet they were standing out from the building at the same time. There was also like they put the patterns in these, different places, like wrapped on this pillar and stuff, which was super fun for me. And then I was invited to Contact, which is a photography festival in Toronto. And again, I talked about, I thought, why not try these outside on these pillars? Like they showed me this crazy big space. It's sort of like, it's got many, they said it was like the, Canadian Times Square, and, our Canada things are always like a tenth of the size of your things. So like it is quite small, but it's still like got a lot of media screens and stuff. And yeah, and so then I finally decided to make these costumes in real life. And here's a beautiful photo of the same. There's Maze again, Longboat, and my friend Garakwahawi Laborn. And then I started to show them all together. And I think I can show you this one very quickly. I was super excited. Just this summer, I was in a fashion show with them. And so I made the whole collection of 7 or 8 outfits. I actually can't remember the number. There's no sound or anything, so it's just like a minute long. and super blurry. So that was exciting. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about Daphne because this was felt very much like a do-it-ourselves thing. This is the name of the Artisan Center that I co-founded with these lovely women, Hannah Claus, Clockwise, Caroline Monet, and Nadia Mir. And that's when I had hair. That's me. And you know, the three of us have known each other for decades. Well, you know, a long time. And we were, you know, we talked about art all the time, and we started to even meet just to talk about art and to read things and discuss them together. And slowly Caroline showed up and came in. We also would make things together. And, you know, we were finding like, you know, we want a space. We need a space to do this, and we want to be able to invite more people into this. And so together we did the painful bureaucratic administrative work of like becoming a nonprofit organization, you know, getting the name, choosing the name and making sure the name, oh, I don't even remember all those details. But one thing I do remember that I thought I'd share with you is that, you know, we had to have a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer, you know, and we were just like, oh, that's not who we want to be. How are we going to do that? There was absolutely no way around it. We could not become a nonprofit organization without it. So we put those things, secretary, those things, four things I said, we put them all in a hat. We each chose one out. We wrote our name, and that's how I became the vice president, and everyone else was what they are, you know. But we don't even remember. I don't even remember what I am until I look at those papers. And this is how cute this is a page on our website, which is really cute. And I wanted to talk a tiny bit about Daphne Beads because, you know, we incorporated, or, you know, we became the nonprofit officially in 2019, and like a couple months, and we hired in March 2020, we hired an executive director with a pot of money we were able to get. And of course, as we all know, the pandemic hit. And so it was December already when we finally said we want to start doing something online. And we always imagined having a weekly bead night, or at least a regular beading night, where we could get together and bead in this space that we wanted to create so badly. And so we did it online. Like, I know you've seen 1,000 of these Zoom screens, but it's just a cute picture of all the people who would dial in and bead together. We had a workshop this particular night. Learned how to make some Iroquois raised beadwork. Just checking my time. Okay, I'm gonna go. I know I don't have to end in 2 minutes and 16 seconds, but I'm going to go pretty fast anyway through this one. One of the things I made during a Daphne Beads weeks is this wampum belt. For those of you who don't already know, a wampum belt is a traditional artifact that my people and our nearby relatives would make out of these long cylindrical beads that are quite meaningful. They are usually made out of shell, and they are not this. They're usually much more symbolic. The imagery is more abstract on it. But I decided I wanted to make a wampum belt of my avatar giving Queen Elizabeth a wampum belt. One of the most famous wampum belts, called the two-row wampum, which is supposed to be about us living together, sharing the land, sharing, but not interfering in each other's affairs. And so as I made this, I imagined an alternate reality or an alternate universe, or a not too distant future in which XOX would talk to the Queen, and she would go visit her, and she would like some of her predecessors, some other Mohawks who have traveled to visit the Queen, her portrait would be made. Queen Elizabeth would commission a portrait of XOX, holding this important commemorative wampum belt. And so I made a series starting with XOX on the occasion of the three sisters accompanying XOX on her visit to the Queen. And the three sisters, for those of you who don't already know, because I think they're pretty popular, maybe even out there, They represent corn, beans, and squash, and they are known in our language as jonhekwa, our sustenance, or actually, they sustain us. And they're beloved personifications. And I was really excited to have them be the people who accompany XOX. And so I was also excited I've always only seen them in like ribbon dresses and really, really traditionally dressed. And I really wanted to see them in modern clothing. And so I took that opportunity to do that. Of course, having many symbolic things. These crowns are something that a lot of our powwow dancers wear, also incorporating raised Iroquois raised beadwork. I have this outline of a longhouse. I have, sunflowers and the Three Sisters garden. These three vegetables were always grown together. That's why they're sisters. And so there's all kinds of things like that in each of the portraits. So here is oneste, or corn, ozaheda, and onu uzura. And I just really wanted to show you those. Oh, and here they are with the wampum belt and their predecessors, the 4 Indian kings, in a show. And I'm not going to show you this one because I'm just running out of time. And unless you're, if you, we can. All right. You know what? I am going to show you the last one because Megan, you have to show them a video and the last video.
Agwego uska, andere watwenuni, ne unquanigura, dano deu tine waradu, ne yunki nistaha, zi yunhutzade. To gadi nayodu, ne unquanigura. Nous rassemblons nos esprits comme un pour saluer et remercier notre mère, la terre. Maintenant, nos esprits ne font qu'un. We gather our minds together as one and greet and thank our mother, the earth. Now our minds are one. Agwego uska, andere watwenuni, ne unquanigura, dano deu tine waradu, ne gane garunyu. To gazi nayodo ne unquanigura. Nous rassemblons nos esprits comme un pour saluer et remercier les eaux. Maintenant, nos esprits ne font qu'un. We gather our minds together as one as we greet and thank the waters. Now our minds are one.
So that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm going to just quickly go through and the reason I want to show you is because I'm very excited to show the Three Sisters also as superheroes. And I have a new project coming up. They're showing up in the Words Before All Else, but then I won an award from the Hewlett Foundation to create a project about them called They Sustain Us. And I also also proposed a project to the Musée de Civilisation here in Quebec to do a Three Sisters seed giveaway. And this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a machinima of a Three Sisters garden. On one wall, the Three Sisters are going to be on posable mannequins, and there's going to be cloth replicas of corn, beans, and squash to show an abundant harvest. And that is my presentation. Nyawa.
All right, thank you so much. I think we're going to begin the Q&A. Anyone who has a question, please raise your hand.
Hello, thank you for that talk. I just had a question because you mentioned some of the older work, it looking bad. And I think like amongst Gen Z and online, there seems to be like a trend toward Y2K nostalgia and like, you know, these early old cell phones and sort of the aesthetics of the early internet. So I'm wondering if any of your students or audiences respond through that lens of like nostalgia, or even think of that work as like retro-futurist.
Yes, I have one research assistant now who is really into that aesthetic. And it's pretty funny because we were shooting Words Before All Else like every day these last few weeks. And every once in a while, and I often ask them, like, how does this look to you? Are you seeing, what do you see in this image that I'm about to shoot, And, so like I invite them to tell me what they see, or, anytime. So I'm putting the camera and like there's this blade of grass and it's like so pixelated. And I'm like, oh, I gotta move my camera away from that pixelated blade of grass. She's like, no, it's awesome. Leave it in, So that's the kind of, yeah, I think, the thing is in the end, you just have to like love it. Do you know what I mean? You just have to go with it, and whatever the trend is, like that can work for you, or maybe it won't, but it has to be something that I feel it has to be something that I love. And so yes, sometimes I do look at the old stuff and I do still think, I do cringe a little, and also because it's not, so Second Life wasn't as good, and also I wasn't as good. Like I see my editing mistakes, different things like that. Watching the clip that I showed you of Time Traveler TM, I remembered, there was no lip syncing when I first started making that episode. It came in as I was making that episode. And that's why when, he turns around and the camera zooms right up into his face, and then you see his lips move. Like that was like lip syncing, But it's funny because I almost didn't remember that, Like when I watch it now, I don't think of that moment anymore.
Other questions? Oh, I got one.
Thank you for that. That was a lovely talk. I was kind of curious if you've kind of talking about more of the digital works and how maybe if you've noticed any interesting reactions or engagements along like intergenerational lines, like do younger generations tend to interact a certain way, or younger or older generations tend to act or react a certain way to your work?
Yes. I see younger people, honestly, I think probably anyone younger than me, they honestly, what I think I'm seeing is they look at it like it's made for them. They seem to not just get it, but like, I don't know, own it or something. And I like that. Like I like how I see them connecting to it. And I love that. And then I'm going to say anyone older than me, but who knows? I don't know. But so many people who appeared older than me to me would come up to me and like they don't like it. Like they're like, they have like this face, this awful disgusted face on, like saying like, did you do that because you couldn't afford real people? Or like they ask me different questions, or they say different things that makes it very clear. Like one woman I remember, my work was in, a great museum, in a group show with all these others. She just like shook her head at me. Like it was so much she did not like it, and the picture of corn of Oneste that I showed you, the corn sister. Well, I feel very lucky because my community, Kahnawake, they have a weekly newspaper, and they will often run a story about artists and about me, my work or what I'm doing. So they show this picture of corn, and I got a letter from an older lady from the community, and she says, and she just starts off, she doesn't say hello or anything. She's like, our Native women never dress that way. They never show their shoulders. You should, you can do better. And I was like, so yeah, there's definitely, but I mean, of course, that is not always, it's not like always the case. Like there's plenty of people who are older than me that tell me that they like my work. I feel very happy about community members, older community members who tell me that, because I'm talking about some really things that are very important to us. The Three Sisters are like, we love them. Our creation story, these are things that are almost sacred. Like they're not sacred in that we're not allowed to talk about them. We are. But, my community does not want the wrong message being put out there, and so I'm like, I try to be quite careful to not be too offensive.
Thank you.
I could say more about that, but I think I'll stop there.
Other questions?
Thank you so much for your talk. The part that I was really interested in was how you are creating movies within this like cyberspace. Like I have never, I mean, maybe it's happening, I just don't know. But what cinema really influences that kind of converging point between like Avatar and then like how you kind of portray them in like a cinematic, and then that storytelling way, like what inspires, like what parts of cinema inspire you, or what films or movies?
Wow, no one has ever asked me that before.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm sorry that I'm not prepared with an answer. Actually, I guess, really what I think of, like as I edit, so I do a lot of the work myself. I write the story. I draw the storyboard. I draw the character sketches. The students, and now I have an old student who stayed with me, which is wonderful. They shop for or make, depending on what it is, the clothes, the hair, the skin. We create the animations sometimes. And then when we shoot, I'm the camera person. I operate the camera, and then I edit. So what cinematic things am I thinking of? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Because I don't know how this sounds, but like, I do not know how I knew how to edit. Like, I never went to school for editing. I like all this stuff. I like kind of mostly really taught myself by just sitting there and working at it, and reading the manuals. I mean, I feel like honestly, there have always been people supporting me along the way. So I don't want to say I was totally alone, but the reason I thought I knew how to edit was because I watched so much TV as a kid. I mean, I just watched, and I loved music videos. I was the MTV generation, right? It started right when I was like just starting to listen to, well, I was listening to music before, of course, but like I thought music videos were like for us, like for Generation X, like made for teenagers. I mean, they were, but that way of editing is what inspires me, or what I like a lot. And then, I mean, storytelling, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like favorite movies, I guess. I should mention Snow Crash, the book, which is it's not a movie, but definitely Snow Crash made me, it was a very exciting book. And I saw so much imagery in my mind reading that book, and some of it is recreated in Time Traveler TM. And then, yeah, I keep wanting to say The Princess Bride. That's always usually an answer that I give people about my favorite movie. But sorry, that's probably the extent. I got to think about that one more.
Thank you. Do we have other questions?
So thank you again for the talk. It was amazing. I'm really curious about the different emotions that come with finishing a project. Like as an artist, you know, you have emotions about the completion of something coming together. Can you talk a little bit about how that differs between the virtual world and the real world, like seeing your fashion line in real life versus like seeing it in Half-Life? Is that what it's called? Second Life. Like, can you talk a little bit about how those hit differently? Or is it the same?
Yeah, I could try. I got to think about that. That's another new question for me. So thank you for that. You know, one thing that I often feel now, like, well, I always felt, but now I recognize that it's just part of my process and I have to just get past it, is I always come to a point where I hate the project. Like I say to myself, why did I ever start this? This project is so stupid. I am so stupid. What, you know, I've spent all this time on something that's ridiculous and useless, you know, and I'm just like, and I'll, you know, complain to someone like Jason, or I have a couple of wonderful people who will listen to me, you know, and they're like, you know, it's not stupid, you know, you're tired, it's taking longer than you thought it would, you know, you're almost at the end now, just finish, you know, because that's what I want to leave the project. Like I'm just like, I'm done. This is a waste of my time. I'm not going to waste any more time on this. And then I finish it and I'm happy with it. And like, I even like love it, you know, like all these projects that I showed you, you know, except for maybe Daphne, you know, that's how I felt about them. Like, you know, and now I like adore them, you know, I'm so proud of them, you know, and I sometimes think, I made that was me. Like, you know, like that's how good they are. You know, they couldn't be made by me. So yeah, I don't think I do feel much of a difference between the AFK ones and the online or in-world ones. I mean, except the one big difference is other people's reactions. I've seen a little bit related to what I was saying earlier, you know, a lot of people, not everyone, don't know what they're looking at when they see a machinima. So, you know, they're like, you know, what did the artist do here? You know, they don't know the work that goes into it. You know, the avatars, you know, are, you know, they're highly customized, but you know, they are made by someone. Like the Second Life default avatars, you know, there's some things you know, can't take away. I mean, I guess you actually can take away. I've seen amazing changes to the avatars, but you know, I stick within a pretty, you know, not narrow, but regular format of, you know, avatars. And when they see my wampum belt, oh my God, people just seem to know exactly how much work goes into that or whatever. I just get a lot more respect out of that. When I, you know, sewed all those clothes, everyone had an idea of how much work and where the artist's hand was in those clothing items, you know? And so that's a bit like, that's, you know, that's the difference. And I'm okay with that difference because I think, you know, the first audience has to be yourself. And, you know I love it. I know what I get out of Second Life and online world. So, yeah, I think I'm okay with that and with that difference. But yeah, I think that's probably the only difference. You know, a lot of people talk about the fact that you can, you know, that it's tangible, but you know, I feel like touching that mouse, you know, it's not the same as touching wampum beads, but you know, I still need to, you know, I still get tired. My hand still gets tired, just like it might if I was using a paintbrush.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question, if anyone has a last question. More? Did you say one more?
Well, yeah, just kind of returning to that idea of the physical and the digital and how people respond. Like there's a lot of indigenous politics around land back and material reparations and also returning artifacts from museums to their community and the way that objects are physically displayed in museums and galleries. So I guess I'm just wondering about your creation of cyber territories and digital virtual galleries and how you see that in relation to those politics and augmenting them.
Wow, great question. I think, again, a new question, so forgive me, world, if I I could change my mind later and I'm happy to hear if this doesn't sound good to you. I feel a little bit like I get to skip over some of that inside of the virtual world. I think that while of course, there's still resources being poured in to the digital space, it is a bit different than an ancient cornhusk doll or pair of moccasins or scalps, bodies that have been taken from our people and put into museums, and wanting them back. I think it's a big deal. And I don't think my digital artifacts are that big a deal. Do you know what I mean? Like I love them as I've said, and I think they're important and I put work into them and other people put work into them. But there is, I can't deny the difference between, holding, I have beautiful baskets, and beadwork and different things, that come from the land, they have grown and they've been fashioned, by hand. And there's a spirit to them, and so I think I just don't think it's as important what I'm doing. Like mine's important in another way. I don't want to say I'm not important. Of course, I think I am, and digital art is very important. We are, Raffaello Zenohemmer, another new media artist who I admire. I went to one of his talks and he said, that we have taken on the challenge. Digital artists have taken on the challenge of working with new media, because we need to figure out what it is. We need to, know what it is. So, I think that's my short answer.
Thank you.
That's something important. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's give you another round of applause.
Yawagoa, it was a pleasure.
All right. Everybody wave goodbye. Thank you. And thank you all for coming.